Hi, I'm Dr. Trussler, and welcome to the Carnivore, the plant-free diet or way of eating, the Carnivore Workshop. And this may be new to you. You may be just learning about this. Studied this for a few years, and I was quite surprised with the evidence that I've seen in science, and amazingly surprised what it did to my body. And you'll get to see the results here, the science behind this. Keep an open mind. This will probably blow you away that it did me as well. Being a chiropractor for 30 years and studying nutrition all those years, learning what I did in school, quite wrong. And we hear, keto, vegan, vegetarian, paleo, low carb, and now carnivore. We're going to dive into this. I'm going to go quite quickly so you can always go back, rewatch, stop a slide, and do some research on this. And I would encourage you, take this evidence, this information, and research it yourself, just what I did. Uh, the carnivore diet, we'll hear some of these myths like too much meat causes cancer. We need the phytonutrients. What about minerals and vitamins? We can't get this from meat, can we? You're going to be constipated if you eat too much meat. And my God, what about cholesterol and heart disease? My dad died at age 50 from heart disease. So doing any kind of diet or lifestyle choice, I'm aware and cautious of what I'm doing, and I want to maximize my health. I want to maximize the return, what I'm getting from myself and my family and my patients. I take it very serious what I do and what I teach. What I teach, I give my best, and I have been taught wrong all these years, which just blows me away. So my background, I've studied nutrition for over 32 years. When I started learning this in school, I always do my research. And it's even though I did my research and I went to seminars and conferences and studied books, I kept seeing plant based is best, and I was dramatically wrong. I test these series on myself first. I've read, at this point, 8 to 10 books and listened to probably 80 to 100 hours of podcasts on this. So, my conclusion is there's not strong evidence of scientific research on a plant based diet. In fact, you'll be quite shocked, as I was. There's a lot of epidemiological or observational studies pushed by sugar and pharmaceutical companies by far. And this is a market. So the market is to make money. So these things are what, when I first learned this, I was shocked. And I thought I got to do my research that all plants have toxins. All vegetables have anti-nutrients. That means they reduce the body's ability to absorb essential nutrients. They go against your body. Who would ever know? Meat, on the other hand, does have no toxins nor anti-nutrients. There's no harm in eating meat at all. The question is, do these toxins that are in all plants, do they accumulate over time? So, cyanogenic glycosides, cyanide, oxalates, lectins, glycoalkaloids, goitrogens, phytic acid. These are some of the main ones, and we're going to cover just the surface of this. So, as we dive in, I would encourage you to do your research. I'm going to hit the main points. Taking 8 to 10 books and putting it into a PowerPoint is quite hard. Taking 80 hours of podcast, evidence, science, what doctors are saying, what cardiologists are saying, quite hard. So I did my best here. Cyanide. This is one of the first ones that I put the brakes on eating almonds. Almonds, flaxseed, linseed, lima beans, and certain fruits, cherries, peaches, and plums. Who doesn't love that stuff? Even today, consuming 50 or fewer wild bitter almonds could potentially kill an adult, and just a handful enough cyanide to be lethal to a child. And what's happening is these bitter almonds, they're not produced and they're not sold, but they are leaking into China's almond production, where there's bitter almonds being found in the almonds. And this could be regular almonds, this could be almond flour, almond milk. These bitter almonds are dangerous. They're lethal. They have cyanide, but regular almonds have cyanide as well. Chronic exposure could contribute and impair thyroid function and neurological disturbances. So I used to eat a handful of almonds every day, getting the good fats, the good protein. Man, was I wrong. And you can get your nutrients from other foods when we go over this. So don't think you're left with an imbalance or a weakness. Lectins. You've probably heard a lot about lectins. Grains, nuts, corn, quinoa, fruit, nightshades, vegetable oils, legumes, squash, potatoes, beans, tomatoes, peanuts, bananas. I eat a lot of those foods, and they can cause leaky gut, damage the brain and nerve cells, which could contribute to migraines, Parkinson's, mental disorders. What these things do, these lectins, along with the oxalates we're going to cover next, they cause tears in the gut lining. Imagine a little tear in the colon or the intestine, and now fecal matter, food matter, leaks out into the bloodstream. This is poison. This is horrible. Leaky gut causes all kinds of autoimmune conditions and chronic sickness and inflammation. So you just need to stop eating these foods. And I'll show you how you can get away from these foods and not feel deprived. So oxalates. Oxalates are in leafy green vegetables, some fruit, nuts, seeds, and French fries. It's an anti-nutrient. Again, it's pulling and not allowing your good nutrients to be absorbed and utilized. It's like this picture on the right. It's like tiny crystals or tiny glass shards or spears. When they put it under a microscope, you can imagine if this is going through your mouth. A kiwi is one that, a kiwi will break up the mouth lining, and then it could possibly tear the esophagus into the gut and then gut lining, because this is like tiny glass. They're poisonous. 80% of kidney stones are coming from oxalates. 80%. This also causes GI issues. 100 milligrams a day, and that's the leaky gut. 100 milligrams a day is okay. It's best if it's under 25. So now watch this. If you have 2 cups of spinach that I was doing on a regular basis, blending it, putting it into my drinks with milks and even almond milk and things like that just get the nutrition in, because I thought I needed phytonutrients and I needed these extra vitamins and minerals. 2 cups gives 600, 6 times what's necessary. And what happens is, or necessary or dangerous, 3.5 grams can be deadly. So as you accumulate this throughout the day with spinach, almonds, almond milk, kale, and you'll see, there's a lot of other oxalate foods. you could well go over 1,000, 2,000, milligrams. You're getting into 2 grams a day, close to being deadly. And there has been confirmed cases where death happened with people that consumed 3.5 grams a day. GLYCOALKALOIDS, nightshades, your tomatoes, eggplant, potatoes, and peppers. What they do is they bind with cholesterol, which disrupts the cell and causes it to leak or burst. And when it binds with cholesterol in the cell, it disrupts that, and then bam, it bursts the cell. Cell disruption. This is crazy. This is horrible. We need to have cells intact, not blowing up inside of us. They can cause mental health issues, leaky gut, and many other issues. So this other one, these goitrogens, this is the soy, arugula, bok choy, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, collard greens, kale, mustard greens, radishes, turnips, wasabi. Who doesn't eat that? I love that stuff. And I still love it. I just don't eat it now. Brussels sprouts in my pan with olive oil and sea salt. Oh, great. Love cauliflower. Cauliflower pizza, collard greens. I would eat, bowls of this stuff. Look what this does. It interferes with iodine absorption. It depletes glutathione. Glutathione is an antioxidant. It's a chemical that actually pulls chemicals out of your body, and it's very helpful. It's depleting this, and it causes thyroid dysfunction. So women, especially, look at this. You don't need it. My wife makes the best collard greens around, and no more for me. Phytic acid. It's in grains, not seeds and legumes. It acts like a sponge, and again, it soaks up the minerals and prevents absorption. Iron, calcium, magnesium, zinc, and copper. Many of you have muscle cramps and muscle spasms and even poor muscle pain or heart dysfunction because you're lacking calcium and magnesium. Or if you're eating grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes, you're sucking this out of your body, so you're making the imbalance. So now you have a heart condition or an AFib. Could it be related because of magnesium drop? Could it be related to just your food? You just need to stop. So phytonutrients, this was a big one. Plant-based compounds or chemicals. These are not essential nutrients. In fact, research shows there's evidence of benefit and sometimes no evidence of benefit and sometimes explicit evidence of harm. So I was told for 30 years, phytonutrients, get your phytonutrients. It just sounds good. Wow, phytonutrients. Get your plants. Well, they're dangerous. Concentrated green tea supplements may impair thyroid and cause liver damage. I've heard green tea being the best. Drink your green tea. I would tell patients, drink a lot of green tea. It helps the immune system. I'm helping them impair their thyroid and cause liver damage. So I was quite wrong over all these years, and I apologized to my patients, and I thought, my goodness, I got to come public and do everything I can to teach and give you the information. Once you get the information, you can do what you want with it. If you don't know, then it harms you. And this is from a book, and this is an oxalate book called Toxic Superfoods. Sally K. Norton wrote an entire book on oxalates. So watch where this starts. This is back in the 1860s. Have you ever heard of Ellen G. White and the Seventh-day Adventist Church? Well, back then, Ellen G. White in the church had a vision or a voice from God tell her that meat was bad. Meat should not be eaten, especially by boys, because it causes them to want to have sex and masturbate. So the church took this on, and it became a movement. Well, guess who was a member of her church? John Harvey Kellogg. So Kellogg's created the cornflakes and a non-meat substitute. This started way back then, and it blew me away. When I first heard this, I interviewed for my Making Pittsburgh Healthy podcast, Belinda Fetke from Australia, and she was sharing this with me, and I thought, this has to be absurd. This cannot be correct. My research and the evidence, it's there. This is what happened, and this is where it's still going on today. In fact, Kellogg's is such a strong company. They govern, I believe it's up to 20 hospitals. So where Belinda Fetke's husband, who was an orthopedic surgeon, worked, he was telling his patients, stop eating sugar and don't eat the carbohydrates, because he was amputating their feet because of diabetic neuropathy. He found that this could help them. Well, they turned him into the board, and they took his license for 2 years because he was telling people to not eat sugar, because Kellogg's was running and governing their hospital. The hospital was told, that this is what you prescribe as your diet, and why wouldn't it? Cornflakes and sugar. Sugar causes disease. Non-meat substitutes, it feeds Kellogg's. In the industry, in their market, they make a lot of money, and the hospital stays busy. Go to number 43 and listen to this. It'll blow you away. So why did I try this? In the summer of 2022, right before I left, a patient of mine, I was telling him about carnivore and what I've been learning, and just I wasn't really sure if I should do it. It just was kind of new to me. But he said, you got to listen to Anthony Shafee. I'll have all the resources at the end here. And he goes, he's crazy, man. All he eats is meat and he drinks water. And I'm like, okay. So I go to vacation in Florida, and the first day I wake up, my neck and back are killing me. And if you recall my story, I broke my scapula, my right scapula, when I was 49 years old. I'm 57 at the time. And I had some scar tissue in that neck shoulder area. So when I go on vacation, I wake up and that neck shoulder area is killing me along with my low back. And I thought, well, it's the bed. So I switched to another bed. The next morning I woke up killing me. I switched to a third bed, same thing. And I'm taking 15 minutes in the morning just to relieve some tension and stretch. So then I'm listening to these podcasts by Dr. Shafee and Dr. Baker, on the beach. And I'm listening hours and hours. And I thought, you know what? I'm trying it. So then the fourth day I went all meat. And I didn't know what to eat, so I ate hamburgers all day. No condiments, no nothing, no bread, just meat. Second day, same thing. I added some fish and got some steaks. Third day, same thing. And it was the third or fourth day I woke up. I had no inflammation in my body, no pain in my neck and back. It was like night and day. I couldn't believe it. And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna stay on this. Well, currently, it's been just over 7 months. And I haven't quit. I'm about 98% carnivore. I have a little bit of cheese, maybe a teaspoon of peanut butter every now and then. But besides that, it's all meat. And I want to show you some before and after pictures here. This is when I was 22, and it was my first year school teaching. I was a fitness instructor, a phys ed teacher, playing competitive rugby. And my first summer, I decided I wanted to gain weight. I was only 150 pounds. So I thought, you know what? Let's put on weight. How do you get heavy? You eat pasta and drink beer. Oh, it's not good. But that's a carbohydrate. That's a sugar. And I got a belly. That was the first time I ever had a belly in my life. And I felt strong because my chest and arms got bigger. And I gained 23 pounds. I was up to 173. But they called me Pillsbury Doughboy. And I thought, oh my gosh, what happened to me? It took me 6 months to get that belly off. Then at age 40, this was a picture they took on the front page of a local newspaper. My daughter, that little girl there, who went on to run in college and just an incredible runner, we would run together. And one day I was hot. I'm taking my shirt off. Well, they took a picture of me, and it was in the newspaper. And I looked, and I thought, this does not look like a strong, healthy guy. I'm fit, and I could run just a 18-minute 5K. And I ran marathons. I ran some ultras, and I raced hard. But look at that. Running like that does not contribute to a muscular body. And when you run a lot, you eat a lot of fruits. And I was eating good. You understand, I was eating a plant-based diet. I wasn't eating a lot of garbage, but I had almonds, almond milk, almond flours, lots of vegetables, big salads. And I would get my protein, but I would crave the carbohydrates because of the running. And then last summer, this was taken right before I started my carnivore. This is when I was 56. I weighed 175. And I still play competitive rugby, so I didn't mind having the weight on me. But I didn't have lean abs. I had a layer of belly fat on me. So this was right before. This is at the beach in Pompano. I go on the carnivore diet, and in 5 weeks, I look like that. I lost about, 6 to 8 pounds off my belly, and it just came off all my belly. And then I noticed that the fat around my chest came off, my arms. I started looking leaner and more vascular. It's just eating meat. I wasn't taking any protein supplements, any protein shakes that I did for 30 years. I took a protein shake or two every day. And I drank water. I did drink coffee, but I just ate meat. And I started to show my abs. Now look, this was 15, 16 years later. So then in November, I even got leaner. My abs were starting to get defined, and I couldn't believe it. So just recently, my most recent, I lost just a little bit more body fat, and I'm down at 160.1. In fact, just the other day, I weighed in at 159, and I'm not trying to lose weight. I am eating as much as I can. I'll eat 8 to 10 eggs for breakfast. I'll have bacon, 10 pieces of bacon. I'll have a chunk of meat or steak, whatever I want. And then whenever I'm hungry, I eat. I usually eat 2 meals and sometimes 3. I'll have 3 or 4 hamburgers at lunch, maybe a steak, a pork chop with bacon and eggs. I just eat. I feel the best I have felt, I believe, my entire life. I feel more cognitive clearness. I feel alive. I feel on purpose at my office again. We just set a new mission statement to dominate health in our community. And that takes a lot of energy. I've been doing this almost 30 years. This is a time to slow up for most people, yet I'm on fire. I just feel excited. I'm training for another rugby season. We're heading into season again. I've been playing since I was 21. I'm still going strong, and I still compete with my 20 to 30-year-old, guys on the team. So, beef consumption. This peaked in the 70s. Nearly every adult ate about 90 pounds of beef a year. It's down to 60. Vegetarians have a higher risk of hip fractures than regular meat eaters. 1-year mortality is 21% higher after a fracture and 70% if not addressed with a surgery from the hip fracture. So vegetarians have weak bones, and meat gives you bone strength and muscle strength. So this is how these epidemiological studies break down. This is what they would put on a headline. The headline would be, new study claims red meat increases risk for heart attack and stroke. So when you read that, you look and say, well, that makes sense. I have to read no further. But let's read the subheading. It's from Tufts University and Cleveland Clinic, and it's published in the American Heart Association. So if you just read that, you could feel confident that you should stop eating red meat. Well, I'm going to prove this wrong. This is an epidemiological study, meaning they estimate food intake over a long period of time. They took 4,000 participants over 12 and a half years. They did a dietary survey twice. This survey consisted of 99 food questions to ask, what did you consume last year? This is absolutely absurd. Who in their right mind would publish this if it's not to make a lot of money, and that they feel that the society and the public is so stupid that they're not going to look into this? This is on diagnosediet.com. When you look at these studies, these are where a lot of the studies are, because they just don't have clinical studies. So when you see this, it's absurd. Don't buy into it. So let's look at some more studies. The Nurses' Health Study, 90,000 women. 20 years. Women who drank 2 sweetened drinks a day had a 40% higher risk of heart attacks and deaths from heart disease. There were other studies, 40,000 men over 2 decades. 1 can of sugary drink, 20% higher risk of heart disease. Another study, 80,000 women over 22 years. 1 can of sugary drink a day, 75% higher risk of gout. So when we hear gout, what do we think of? Meat, red meat. Don't eat red meat. Well, what about this? What about a sugary drink? Why isn't this all over the news? Because the sugar companies. So back in 1965 in England, they took 80 volunteers and they substituted corn oil for saturated fat. So England's been known, along with Sweden and Finland, for high fat. It still is. They're one of the highest consuming fat countries in the world. Lots of milks and dairy, raw milks and cheeses. Well, they took this group and they gave them basically corn oil, and didn't allow them to eat the saturated fat. Fat was the only thing they changed. So this was a good study because it's one variable. Cholesterol dropped 23 milligrams per deciliter. Wow. Off the top, that sounds good. But in the book that I was reading, the next sentence, I'll never forget this, said they also died. There was more cardiovascular incidents, deaths, and total deaths than in the control group. Coronary heart disease. So they did another one, Anti-Coronary Club, in 1966. So the next year. In America, they replaced saturated fats, again, the healthy fats, the milks, the butters, the cheeses, with polyunsaturated fat, a vegetable oil. Cholesterol dropped from 260 to 225. Again, wow, that is great. That's what we need. If cholesterol is causing heart attacks, then this is good because they'll have less heart attacks. 9 months later, 8 of the subjects died from heart attacks. Well, none in the control group. And at the end, 26 died in the prudent group, in the group that was eating the vegetable oil. In the control group, only 6. So you have a 77% greater risk of heart attack by taking vegetable oil and lowering your cholesterol. Follow the money trail. What the heck is going on? So let's look at cholesterol. Did you know that 85% is made in your body and 25% of it is in your brain? You need cholesterol. LDL and they'll say that's the bad cholesterol. There's no good or bad. It's just there's different types. The LDL, low density lipoprotein, is oxidized. When it's oxidized, it causes plaquing. So insulin or sugar increases oxidation. So what this does again, insulin triggers production of fibrinogen. So there's a tear in the artery wall and there's clotting. So fibrinogen or fibrous tissue, scar tissue start to form. Well, that's where the plaquing is. And insulin triggers this. So it's not the cholesterol, it's what's happening, it's the sugar. So there was a meta-analysis of 167 experiments. This is huge. Cholesterol feeding experiments found that raising dietary cholesterol had a negligible effect on blood cholesterol and no link to coronary heart disease risk. Back in 2010, the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, they concluded intake of saturated fat, the butters, the cheeses, the meat fats, was not associated with an increased risk of coronary heart disease, stroke, or cardiovascular disease. Cholesterol levels change daily and up to 100 points within a few days. So getting your cholesterol checked, once every 6 months, is that even is that good evidence to if it's good or bad? Whether it's high or low, what's it matter? You need to check it, maybe weekly, maybe 20 times to get an average. But is it even essential? So here's my cholesterol, and I did this. I check it every few years. I really could care less because I'm not concerned about it. I know what causes good health and what causes bad heart health. My dad died at age 50. I don't want to have heart disease, but cholesterol is not on my list of worries. Metabolic health, meaning being obese or having a big belly. Guys that have a belly of 40 inches, mine's 30. Are high risk, so I'm no low risk here. High insulin's a high risk. I have low insulin. High blood pressure. I'm low blood. I have normal blood pressure. Things like this, cause the heart disease, not just cholesterol. So I got this tested before in the summer before I went on vacation, and my overall cholesterol was 208. HDL 43, which isn't bad. LDL 146, which is a little high. Triglycerides 106, that's okay. But you have to understand, this was on my plant-based diet. This was on exercising 6 days a week, drinking water, eating virtually no sugar, but I had carbs because I had fruits and vegetables and grains, not a lot of grains. But what this book, and you'll have the research book at the end, the cholesterol myth book, what they were saying, and these experts are saying, this isn't really new science. This is explored science that's coming out, and the creative and the curious doctors are looking into saying, we need to make a change. The ones that aren't agreeing to this don't want to make a change. They don't care, or they're not looking into it. So they say your triglycerides divided by your HDL is a higher heart disease risk predictor. So a high number, you have a great risk. So anything under 2.0 is great. So when I measured mine, my 106 divided by 43, I was 2.46. So not bad, but being competitive, I wanted under 2.0. So I went on the the carnivore diet. I'm eating, just all meats and all fats as much as I could. Eggs and bacon, several days a week that I eat bacon, pig, pork and beef with fat, lamb. I raised my own lamb and I raised my own Angus and my own chicken eggs. So I was eating all my healthy, organically raised meat. And this is what happened. My cholesterol went up to 248, which is expected because I'm eating, higher fats. So did my LDL, which I'm not concerned with, but my HDL went up. That's a good number. Look what my triglycerides did, 106 to 68. So this time I had a C-reactive protein test. This is inflammation. Anything under 8 is ideal. Mine was 1.3. Virtually no inflammation in my body. That's why I had no pain when I turned my neck and in my back. Now, I have a watch, a Garmin watch that measures my heart rate 24/7. I sleep with it and so forth. And I just calculated before this podcast what was my average over the past year. I have a 56 average resting heart rate. And I didn't have this when I was a long distance runner. It was higher. It was like 60 something, 62 or so. But then you take my triglycerides to HDL ratio, 68 divided by 47, I'm at 1.44. I dropped an entire point. So am I at risk for heart disease? I have no belly fat. My waist to hip ratio is about a 1. My belly size is about a 31. And my weight is 159 now. My sugar is very low. I eat no sugar, and my inflammation is very low. What risk am I having? But what would I get if I went to a doctor and they looked at cholesterol and LDL? They would say you need a statin. Insane. So there's other societies. In Kenya, they eat and drink raw and fermented dairy, free of chronic and degenerative diseases. And 40% of the highest international running events are won by Kenyans. That is, so they eat raw and fermented dairy along with meats, and they have no disease, and they win all the races. Worldwide. The Samora tribe in Uganda, no heart disease or elevated cholesterol levels, yet they eat a dietary diet of 400 grams of animal fat. That's 3,600 calories. Most people consume about 1,500 to 2,000 calories a day, and you'll get fat. These people are consuming twice as much of fat, and they don't get fat, and they don't have cholesterol problems, and they don't have heart disease. The Maasai, this is the picture on the right, the Maasai of Kenya, they eat meat, milk, and drink the blood from the animals. 300 grams of animal fat a day. Their cholesterol levels are the lowest everywhere, under 160. And heart disease is unknown. Look at them. They're shredded. They look like super athletes, and they probably are. Hunting animals, and but they don't work out. They don't lift weights. They don't watch their diet. They eat meat. They drink milk, and they drink blood, and they catch their animals. Japanese increase their total fat and animal fat consumption by 250% since 1961. 40,000 Japanese over 16 years, a study, they found that those who ate the most eggs, dairy products, and fish had a 28% lower risk of stroke than those who ate the least. Is red meat linked to cancer? So 2011 European Journal of Cancer Prevention, red meat consumption in colorectal cancer, that's where it's always told that this is affects. No concluding evidence of a positive association. And what I read was it's about a 1.0 relationship, or just under 1%, which is meaningless. You could take everyone who has red hair and they may be a 1 or 2% risk. I mean, it's virtually meaningless. So it doesn't. Harvard School of Public Health in 2002, no credible link between breast cancer and milk or meat. So there's a lot of evidence out there. So when we look at the nutrition, can we get all our nutrition from beef, from meat? This was, I was worried about this. I thought, wait a second, I have an orchard with apples. I have blueberry trees, raspberry trees. I have plum trees, peach trees, pear trees, elderberry, and other berries on my farm. And I'm like, oh, I need all this food. And I just planted rhubarb and I have blueberries. So when we look at this, apples and blueberries, very low in vitamins and minerals, all your essential vitamins and minerals. Kale, yeah, there's some stuff in kale, but remember, it comes with toxins. But look at beef. You don't eat kale, and you don't eat blueberries or apples. Eat a steak. Holy cow. And if you look down at the vitamin C, this is interesting. Vitamin C, you only get 2.0 from beef. But when you are eating meat, you don't need vitamin C to be well. In fact, you need about 2.0. You need very little. And what happens is with orange juice or things with sugar in them, sugar nullifies the vitamin C. So if you have 100 grams of sugar and 100 grams of vitamin C, it wipes itself out. In fact, I don't know what the ratio is, but if you drink a big glass of orange juice with 100 grams of vitamin C, it's virtually, because of all the sugar, it's gone. The vitamin C utilizes, or it's like a sponge. It sucks up the vitamin C so your body doesn't get it. So you don't need it. When you look at chicken, pork, eggs, salmon, beef, and beef liver, if you eat all these type of foods, you're going to get a wide variety, high amount of nutrients, which shows that we don't need fruits and vegetables. Period. If you eat your meats, you're going to be fine. And I eat a variety. I eat mainly beef. Beef does the best for me. I'm surprised lamb isn't on here in the study because lamb is very fatty and it's probably right there with beef. So I eat a lot of beef and lamb. And I also have eggs from my farm, and I have some pork from a local farm. It's organically raised, and they also raise chicken. So I don't eat much fish. I used to eat more. I haven't eaten any. It doesn't do well for me. Beef does me good. So highest longevity rates. Who lives the longest? And when I ask this in a group, people will say China, Japan, Okinawa. We've always heard this. These are all these seaweed places where they eat seaweed and vegetables and garden. It's Hong Kong. Hong Kong. So what does Hong Kong eat? Well, kilograms of meat per capita, Hong Kong trumps everyone. Everyone. That's not enough to say that meat will make you live long. It's not. But it's enough to assume that it has something to do with this. So I hope at this point you come to a conclusion that A, you need to do some more research, and B, you can't trust what you're seeing in the market and what's marketed. What I've come to the conclusion with is you don't need these things. This is my resource page. So these are the resources I follow and I read. I would, you could take a snapshot of that and go start researching. If you read all this stuff and you start listening to these podcasts, within a few months, your mind will be blown. You only need, a little bit. If you're thinking about cholesterol, get the Great Cholesterol Myth. If you're trying to get an overall view of with this carnivore, get Dr. Sean Baker's book, The Carnivore Diet Book. If you really want to dive into some science, Defending Beef, the book, and The Vegetarian Myth, wow, they dive deep into that. And if you're a nerd and you really want to learn about oxalates, Toxic Superfoods. Dr. Ken Berry, I read his short version of his book, but he's another one that has some great information. So take a look at that. And so my conclusion was, one, meat is optimal food. Plants have toxins which may accumulate. I would believe they do, because same with smoking or anything else, they accumulate in the body. Carbs, totally unnecessary. Plant foods, not essential, unnecessary. Fat is healthy. Meat and fat will not harm us, nor your heart. Can we eat plants? So people will ask me, well, can I eat salads? I like salads. Yes. In fact, you could live a vegetarian life and still be alive. And if you listen to some of the podcasts, you'll see some of these vegetarians are on near death until they change over to meat. But you can live off of plants and fruits and vegetables. In fact, you could live off all fruits if you want. But the question is it ideal? Is it optimal? My conclusion is carnivore type eating is optimal. Eat more meat. This is not a diet, by the way. This is a way of eating. And I would encourage you to, don't take my word for this. Go to the resource page there and go do your research yourself. Listen to some podcasts and find out what the truth is. You have to find very good resources. I have found them for you. I do my research the best I can, and I relay this information the best I can. Will this information change over the next 10 years? Sure it will. I don't think that the principles of the foundation will change, but the science may start to prove more of this because there haven't been any studies clearly on strict vegetarian eating. There's just epidemiological studies and observations, and surely not on meat eating. So I hope this helps, and I am not selling any products. I'm not selling anything. My farm, I raise enough meat for myself and a few people, so I don't have meat to sell. So I don't do this because I make money or I'm marketing something. That's what everyone is doing. That's why they market it so heavy. There's investment in it. There's no investment for me. If you eat more meat, it does nothing for me, but it could change your life. My goal is to help you dominate your health and dominate your life, and you have to eat as healthy as you can. God bless, and I hope this helps.